Comics Plus, what's going on? Akasan here. Breaking news. Not really breaking news, but it looks like the new Rockstars has the original Wakanda Forever script before Chadwick Boseman passed. We've been talking about this. We've been curious about this, you know? Let's see what's up. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Boss, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever pulled off the near impossible task of a successful follow-up to the 2018 Black Panther film, and
Did it really? No. No. Let's keep going.
thrilling MCU installment, despite tragically losing Chadwick Boseman right before production of the sequel was set to begin, after a draft of a previous version of Black Panther 2 was written in 2020. And as someone who's written a few screenplays myself and read hundreds more, I am completely blown away by what Ryan Coogler and co-writer Joe Robert Cole were able to accomplish, and the way they were able to relatively quickly reconceive this narrative as one focused instead on Shuri, evolving the character into an instrument of grief that taught audiences both how to mourn Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa, and how to process the death of any loved one in our lives. This is especially impressive now that these creatives are opening up about what that original 2020 script draft.
Yeah, I'm curious.
This week, an in-depth interview with the co-writer Joe Robert Cole, and cryptic mentions that you might have missed in other articles upon this movie's release about other characters who were originally going to be killed off instead of Ramonda, and when exactly elements like Namor, Talokan, and even T'Challa's son Toussaint came into the story. So for the sake of
Spoiler.
the challenges and triumphs of the filmmaking and screenwriting processes, let's break down everything we know about this original script of Black Panther 2. What would Wakanda Forever have looked like with T'Challa in it? Well,
Alright.
director Ryan Coogler, this second Black Panther film was always going to be one about Wakanda's relationship with Namor's rival kingdom. In a podcast interview that Ryan Coogler did with Ta-Nehisi Coates, Coogler said that as early as late 2018, months after the first Black Panther was released and the movie was starting to get Oscar buzz, Coogler began to have meetings with Marvel Studios about what the sequel was going to be.
I knew I wanted to make another one. You know, when I was doing my deep dive, you know, all of his stories, there were like a few characters that he would interact with. I thought, man,
Of course.
this would be awesome. And I knew that like it would be Claw and Killmonger for the first one, but Namor was like all over these books, and it was always really interesting. If we ran it back, it would be about him and Namor, and we would introduce Marvel's Atlantis to the fall.
And I'm saying, look, I'm not with the whole recast T'Challa crew, but I understand. And that's one of my things. It's like, it's almost like Batman and Joker. It's kind of like, well, I wouldn't say that. Vegeta and Goku. You have to have T'Challa, dude. T'Challa and Namor, because their relationship is that interesting. Fair enough. What they did with Shuri was whatever, but, and I think they did the best that they could with this situation given, but I feel like they could only get it out for one movie opposed to, I don't know. We'll see. Whatever. I won't get into all that.
The co-writer Joe Robert Cole confirmed to Rolling Stone that Namor was always going to be the antagonist of this movie.
Namor.
And they always wanted to bring in Marvel's Atlantis because, yeah, in the comics, T'Challa's biggest rival really is Namor.
Yep.
But since that DC's Aquaman was going to be coming out at the end of 2018, they really went in deeper. They changed Atlantis to Talokan, basing it all on Mesoamerican mythology. Coogler also said the movie was going to explore T'Challa more as a person.
Second script was like a T'Challa vehicle. It was like, okay, we set the world up. Now we're gonna like do the deepest dive into this guy that you could imagine, and that was what excited me even more because I knew Chad better as a performer and I knew him better as a guy.
Yeah, notice how Coogler said that there were certain biographical elements about Chadwick Boseman as a human being that he wanted to bring in to inspire the character of T'Challa. And specifically, at this period of the relationship between the two men, Chadwick Boseman was tragically planning a wedding with his partner Simone. Coogler also confirmed in this podcast that he finished his draft in August 2020 and brought it to Chadwick Boseman to read.
My last conversation.
Yeah,
with
he's
him
too
was
tired.
calling him,
Yeah.
asking him if he wanted to read it before I got notes from the studio. That was the last time we spoke. You know, he passed maybe a couple weeks after I finished, and then he was like, yeah, he didn't want to. He said he didn't want to read it because he didn't want to get in the way with whatever notes the studio might have or what have you. So he was like, it's better for him to read it later. I found out later that he was too tired to read anything.
Yes, this is a very heavy but meaningful podcast with some really deep moments from Ryan Coogler. I highly recommend you listen to it. But from this, we know that Coogler's 2020 draft was a rivalry between T'Challa and Namor, the two kingdoms, exploring T'Challa as a family man and a political leader debating whether to join forces with Namor in the war against the surface world. Essentially, the conflict that Shuri and Ramonda face as rulers and representatives of the kingdom of...
God. I would have loved to have seen that, man. Could you just imagine just the power, or the responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? And the man is not just king, but a returning king from the snap or the decimation, and the protector of Wakanda as the Black Panther. Like having to just sit there, like that would have been some Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon type stuff. Just really sitting there, deciding to what to do, what is best for your people, especially after unfortunately being abandoning them, unbeknownst to your own admissions, abandoning them for 5 years. You know, oh my God, that would have been some great king shit, dude. Ugh.
Interesting to also note that Coogler always intended on calling back Killmonger from the ancestral plane. Cole also confirmed that in the Rolling Stone interview, that Killmonger's ancestral plane return was always going to be in the works. The difference was that in the 2020 draft, this return was going to be a rematch with T'Challa. Perhaps not a physical rematch, but a war of words, similar to the powerful speech that Killmonger gives Shuri. But upon Wakanda Forever's release, there was another in-depth article from Variety that kind of got buried.
Oh shit! So Killmonger was always supposed to be in this movie.
Forever's release, there was another in-depth article from Variety that kind of got buried by the opening weekend headlines, but in that article, there was one mysterious paragraph that reveals quite a bit. It reads, as is often the case with Marvel Studios productions, the screenplay was a largely fluid document from pre-production all the way through the final cut of the film. An early subplot where the United States featured more prominently in the confrontation between Wakanda and Talokan was dialed down, while the incident that launches the third act shifted focus to different characters. So reading between those lines, two things there. Essentially, a US invasion of Wakanda, and then a different incident that launches the third act, focusing on different characters. Now, of course, the US invasion of Wakanda is hinted at in the scene with that.
Yeah, true.
We never actually see it. They don't get there yet. Maybe Marvel Studios is saving that for a future title, like Thunderbolts. Now, Black Panther Wakanda Forever offers an optimistic view of the future. Wakanda will last forever. But sometimes the pressure of forever can be overwhelming, and it's helpful to just say what's going on right now. Well, Inkbox tattoos can help. Inkbox tattoos last 1 to 2 weeks, so you can express.
Yeah, like honestly, like, so people got mad at me about this, but like I said, like it really felt like there was some BVS script writing, theatrical script writing, where like there was a bunch of different ideas thrown together, but none of them really felt that completed and that fluid, except for Shuri's story. Everything else was just like, okay, we got Riri going on here, we got the guards, the job. You know what I'm talking about, the bald female warriors, Dijamati or something like that. We had the story going on there where they kind of like had a side sort of relationship, and like they were kind of doing a splinter group. Then you also had things going on with Nakia, right? Ramona had her certain thing going on. We already mentioned Riri. Then Everett Ross was in there. Then the thing going on with Elaine, where that was supposed to build up to something more dealing with the president and all that. And then the whole thing of people trying to get the resources and this the offshore drilling that was going on. Then you had things with Namor and his mom. It was like, yo, come on, man. Damn it. Continuing.
About whether or not you'll want it, well, forever. There
are sorry. There you go. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Okay. Give me a Wakanda Forever. Give me a. There you go. Okay.
Get started with the description.
Yeah.
Queen Ramonda and Shuri seeing Killmonger in the ancestral plane. In the final version of the movie, that is the sequence that ends the second act. When Shuri reaches her lowest point, the sequence that ends with Shuri powering up as a new Black Panther and confronting Namor in the Taliban.
No, let me back this up a little bit.
In the final version of Inkbox, just click the link in the description and start browsing. But that Act 3 incident structurally refers to the death of Queen Ramonda and Shuri seeing Killmonger in the ancestral plane. In the final version of the movie, that is the sequence that ends the second act. When Shuri reaches her lowest point, the sequence that ends with Shuri powering up as a new Black Panther and confronting Namor in the Talokan in the final battle, the third act. So this Variety quote is glossing over the fact that in a previous draft, either a different character was going to be killed off instead of Ramonda, and or Shuri was going to see a different character in the ancestral plane than Killmonger. Now, to be clear, Cole confirmed that it was never considered to use CGI to recreate the likeness of Chadwick Boseman, but it is possible that a past version of Wakanda Forever featured, instead of Ramonda dying, the death of a character like Okoye or M'Baku. If you think about it, in a version of this movie where T'Challa was the hero, M'Baku's death would have been a pretty devastating loss. Namor would have killed T'Challa's strongest ally, T'Challa's Mercutio, something that feels like it could have still survived to the later version of this movie, considering M'Baku's brotherly status to Shuri and how relatively little he now has to do in the final battle of this movie.
Yep.
Like they kind of had to come up with
True.
something for him to do in the final fight. Now,
True.
They did bring back M'Baku to Warrior Falls to claim the throne, but when it comes to that final battle, as fun as it is to watch him fight, you can't really say he's much of a game changer in the title.
You know, funny enough, that was hella glossed over, to be honest. Like the fact that I remember, I think I was just so tuned out of the movie at the end that like they even had the guy who plays M'Baku put out a press release saying that, oh yeah, I am the ruler of Wakanda now. Like I thought he was joking, to be honest. I didn't know that was like a legit thing. Like I was like, oh, is he? Like I just kind of assumed that Shuri was queen of Wakanda now, because you know if she can just take any other title easily with the purple drink, I just assumed that she was going to be queen of Wakanda and a Black Panther, right? But apparently, M'Baku is the ruler of Wakanda now. Odd.
Now, Cole does admit that they definitely played around with the idea of making M'Baku the Black Panther of this movie altogether, but pretty early on, they settled on Shuri being the most impactful focal character of this kind of story, and then after they made that decision, they shifted all other characters into Shuri's orbit. Really, the most surprising thing to learn about the original 2020 script draft was, according to Cole, T'Challa having a son was always going to be part of this movie. He said that T'Challa had a child in the script prior to Chad's passing, and was always in the DNA of what they wanted to do. Cole even said that this 2020 draft was more, quote, child-focused, and then that element was more reduced after Boseman's death. Cole said they went back and forth on when to introduce Toussaint, originally planning to straight up name the kid the first time we see him when Ramonda visits Haiti, but later they decided to just show the kid in that scene and then introduce him by his name in the final scene. So what does more child-focused mean? Well, Ryan Coogler might have given us the answer in another interview he did with Inverse in early November, where he revealed about the earlier draft, quote, the tone was going to be similar, the character was going to be grieving the loss of time, you know, coming back after being gone for 5 years. As a man with so much responsibility to so many, coming back after a forced 5 years absence, that's what the film was tackling. He was grieving time he couldn't get back. Grief was a big part of it. The loss of time, a forced 5-year absence. Yeah, it really does sound like this was going to be about T'Challa having missed out on the early years of his son's life. He was
Interesting, actually. Even more like in some form or fashion, kind of interesting. Now, kind of poking the bear here, but I do feel like with some of that information, gee, thank you for the resubscription, DX. I love it. Thank you, DX. Thank you for the resubscription here as well. We are just not going to be able to have this a very clean YouTube edit, which probably means it will never go on YouTube. But all that being said, going back, thank you very much, DX, for the resubscription. Now, it's all good, man. I'll take the subscription though. So, okay, where was I? Okay, so going back to what we were just talking about here is with this particular passing, with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and not to poke the bear too much here, but if this script was really going to be about mourning, grieving the loss of time, I do feel like if I'm saying I understand why they went the route they did, but I do feel like having a recasting T'Challa. Delaying the movie. One thing is, I know this probably wouldn't have worked, but I do feel like they could have delayed the movie as well. And possibly they could have, interesting enough, worked in a new actor playing T'Challa. And in some ways, the actors and the crew are all sort of blaming this new actor for replacing Chadwick. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like 5 years have passed in the MCU, right? And so then they're taking that emotion and using that emotion about a real-time death and saying like, now you come back into our lives as somebody new, as somebody different, and you think things will just run the same way. And that would be sort of like the emotional and spiritual gauntlet that the new actor would have to do by earning their stripes as the new T'Challa, like that. I don't know. Like I guess I'm not really selling it exactly as well as I see it in my mind. But again, I just feel like that kind of would have been kind of cool. But again, my original idea probably would have been to have Wakanda Forever should have been about, in my opinion, about T'Challa and Shuri not being around. It could have been during the time of the decimation, the 5 years of without heroes, or with half the planet disappearing, right? But for whatever reason, Namor has more than enough people in his army, and it could have still been the war of Wakanda and between Wakanda and whatever they called Atlantis in the MCU. And Nakia would have taken the throne. Would have taken the title of the Black Panther. I think that would have been better overall. And then by the time T'Challa comes back, it's a different actor. But whatever, that's me. Let's continue.
Obviously pregnant with T'Challa Jr. before the snap and gave birth to him.
Say what?
On the early years of his son's life. Kia was obviously pregnant with T'Challa Jr. before the snap and gave birth to him shortly after. T'Challa, having been dusted for that time, meant that he was gone for like the first 5 years of his son's life. And Coogler wanted to explore the theme of fathers being taken away from their sons and then suddenly coming back in those kids' lives and struggling to be respected paternal figures.
Fair.
Back at Ryan Coogler's work, this is a very important theme
True.
as a filmmaker. And by the way, Marvel Studios did totally repackage this relationship with Scott Lang and Cassie Lang and Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania.
True.
Scott's lost 5 years with Cassie.
You're so big.
Valuable piece of leverage that Ken used to incentivize Scott into helping him. But one can only imagine the deeper layers of impact that would have been had we seen it with T'Challa and his son. So here's a quick summary of what the original Black Panther 2 2020 script draft most likely was. 1. T'Challa returns from the blip and deals with having been an absent father to his son.
That's crazy.
The United States actually invades Wakanda. 3. Namor confronts T'Challa and challenges him into joining the fight against the other nations of Earth, leading to a fight between the two kingdoms, Wakanda versus Talokan. 4. Killmonger returns to the ancestral plane, but tests T'Challa, maybe even tries to convert T'Challa's son to his ideology. And
wow.
A different character dies in Ramonda, maybe M'Baku. Now again, the point of all this sleuthing isn't to say the previous version would have been better, but really to appreciate.
So far, so good to me, honestly. So far, so good to me. Unfortunately, I know we can't have it both ways, but that OG Wakanda script is looking a lot better than what I watched.
How story elements shift and evolve over time, and to respect the creative team for finding a new way into the story while redeploying these elements in service of a more impactful theme about loss. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at EABoss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Pour that tea. Wakanda Forever. Anyways, my Avengers cup is bigger than my Wakanda Forever cup. Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay. So interesting. Okay. Would you increase your score if Robert Downey Jr. came back in the ancestral plane as his character from Tropic Thunder? Come on now. Please stop playing. I don't know, man. I don't know. Down the line, maybe I can sit back and enjoy Wakanda Forever, but I just felt like so much of it was rushed, and I don't know why somebody got so mad at me when I said that third act looked like something out of Power Rangers VR Troopers, because it really did, like, with all those people flying around in jetpacks and pseudo Iron Man outfits, and like, oh god, it was so I was so removed out of that scene. It was like, And then I don't know if they were just trying not to have it confused too much with Avatar or whatever, but I thought the beginnings, the openings with the Talachan, whatever, Namor's people, the way they were doing this mid-sonar thing, having people walk off the ship, killing themselves, like, oh my God, that was so cool. And I was like, yo, where the sharks at? Where the sharks at? Where the whales? Where the Kraken at? Like, come on now, Namor. I know you can summon some dope things. Like, it should have been that should have been game over, honestly. Like, but whatever. Yeah. Red Red Nation, stand up, speak up. What do you guys think about this particular original script? Do you think it would have been better? I think so. But there's nothing we could really do about it, right? There's honestly nothing they really could have done. Do you think they could have done something better than what we got with Wakanda Forever? Probably not. They probably could not have done, with the time given to them and the deadlines faced. No, they could not have. Okay. Now, if it were me, I probably would have delayed the movie. Obviously, that's not what they wanted to, because Phase 4 has sucked a big one overall. But I feel like they probably should have just delayed the production of Wakanda Forever and given the cast and crew time to grieve and gone with the recast. That's me personally. I feel like the loss of the T'Challa character is so intricate to having some girth, something to believe in, something to follow as just a heterosexual black male. Having something to like believe in. I lost Thor. Chris Hemsworth won't be playing Thor for the most part. It seems that way. And from the looks of it with Love and Thunder, we barely had the Thor in that movie anyways. Doctor Strange was all right. You know, like Spider-Man, yeah, it's technically MCU, right? But I'm just like, man, T'Challa was my dude. Like, to like have something to look forward to in terms of, and something to relate to. So I don't know. I'm sure that's a video for another day, but I just feel like it's like, you know, it would be better to have T'Challa back in some form or fashion, not through his son, not through some kid. Like, again, going back, I get chills when I think about that idea of like T'Challa coming back after 5 years. You know, he has to be king and warrior and protector and carry the burden of not being around for 5 years to protect his people and having to be retested once again. I get chills thinking about that, like that idea. And I feel like they still could have done that with a recast about the having to prove yourself, something the actor would have had to do. But whatever. All right, we'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.